Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of My Wonderful Work History. And this is episode 6. See, it's not going to take me a year to get another episode out, so I am here. With this episode, it'll be kind of a 3 jobs in one episode, just because 2 of the jobs wasn't too much of a long-term situation. But the last job that I'll be talking about was about a year of my life that I kind of stuck with. At the last episode, I talked about the whole situation with the PE tech job or assistant PE teacher job that kind of definitely blew up to a way that I didn't want to at all, but kind of made it out of there with my sanity. That's the best way to put it. So, after a couple days, reality kind of set in that I needed to, get into a job quick as possible, because obviously I have bills and had bills then, still have bills now. And as usual, it took a minute to actually find something, even though I could apply to almost everything except for like fast food and things like that. I had a little, a month of trying to find something to try to get into when I was post PE job is the best way to put it. And so I ended up getting pointed to the next job that I worked for a couple months, and that would be working for Cheney Brothers Inc. So with Cheney Brothers, it was very interesting. I think it was 3.5, 4 months. With Cheney Brothers, what happened was, I'll talk about what exactly Cheney Brothers is. So it's kind of a restaurant supply company. That's the best way to put it. They ship out and they also hold on to items that most people would use for obviously restaurants. So when you think about chain restaurants, when it comes to whether it's their supplies or actual food, Cheney Brothers was one of those companies that moved all those stuff out to those companies and things like that. And so with the position I got there, it was it's a picker. Pretty much what a picker does is they go around the facility or the warehouse and they get the items based on whatever is given on their pick list or order list that they're given, and they get those items and get it ready to be shipped out to whatever store or restaurant or company ends up ordering it. So pretty much how I got into it was definitely a odd situation. So like I said, I was kind of pointed towards the job. It's like sometimes having connections is good, and sometimes your connections and you end up putting you in places like that. That's all I'll say, at least when it came to the entry part of it. The orientation for it was kind of like they were telling us, me and a few other guys that were in it, they were just telling us that the way that they were going to be doing their training when it comes to some of the newer employees would be different, and they would be paying them a little bit more. And I'm going to assume that was just due to high turnover rate. And I would figure out why soon enough, but it would take a month beforehand. So when I first obviously got through the orientation and all that, they had us do training with the truck drivers. And so the main thing is, with the actual position I've been working with, it kind of didn't make any sense for me to work with the actual truck drivers. And so that would be kind of the first thing that would slowly come back to bite me when it comes to how I approach that job and what I ended up leaving in the long run. The first, I'm going to say 2-3 weeks of training. First week I had to actually go on ride-alongs with one of the truck drivers. And so pretty much what we were doing is They would partner me up with a truck driver. We'd go to other places, and this is like an actual semi truck, and just drop off supplies. Like, I think the farthest we went was like, I want to say it was possibly for Sarasota, Florida. I think that was like the farthest we went, and like we had to, just based off the training, we had to be there like at 5 o'clock in the morning just to first help get the truck loaded and just check over everything, and then just go place to place dropping stuff off. And so it wasn't even a matter if it was just like the timing or anything like that. It was just a matter of the stuff that we were mostly doing in that first week of training of riding along with truck drivers literally had nothing to do with what the actual job that we applied for. So that's kind of like, a week gone that could have been more focused on the actual position that they ended up hiring me for. So made it through the first week with the training and all that, with the truck driver at least. The second part of the training was working in the actual warehouse that I would be working for, the actual position they hired me for. The trainer that I worked with, he was an actual cool dude. Been there for a while. His position was kind of like the position that deals with any items that end up getting returned or any items that were damaged and had to be like thrown out, but they had to keep track of like what it was and then put up the numbers on how much it needs to be, how much it would take to get it replaced and things like that, or how much of a loss it would be with that item getting damaged or whatnot. He trained us on how to use the actual machines that we would ride around on. They were kind of just like, the best way to put it is like a forklift without actually being a forklift. I forgot the actual names of them, but they're kind of just like, they're kind of like forklifts, but they're kind of like jets. And like we were just riding around the entire building on these, just like, and they were fast. I want to say they maybe hit up like 20 to 25 miles per hour, and we would use those to pick up the actual pallets and where we put our stuff on, things like that. We had to learn how to use those. We had to learn how to park them and things like that, just so it would be easier for us to do. And since we're going around a warehouse that fast, and obviously we need to actually be moving fast to get everything done, it's kind of like learning how to drive a whole different type of vehicle. He taught us that, and pretty much after that, it was more of just us learning about the different parts of the facility and where to go, where to drop stuff off, how to wrap up the actual items once we're done with an order list, and things like that. So once we actually started working, I'll say this, like, this job was like, it's still to this day, is like the most physically and mentally draining job that I had. But I'll say it was more physical than anything, because it's like those first 3.5 weeks of training, they didn't really actually prepare you for like how much of a rush and an actual physical beating that you'll take when you're actually in this job. So obviously with me being newer, they didn't have me doing a crazy amount, at least when it came to the order list, but I still had to be able to keep up and just kind of just get into it. And I think the main thing was just a matter of the hours and the timing, because it's like my shift, I would start at like 6 o'clock, and I'm trying to remember, I think I got off like maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. And so I was taking lunch breaks at like, I want to say like 12:30. Like during that time, I was definitely going to Taco Bell a lot, because that was the closest place and obviously the only place that was open. So it was rough. I'll say that. It was rough just because of how physical and how mentally draining it can be, because it's like you would be burned out, and it's like after work, it's just like I I think this was the most time I was just catching like crazy amount of cramps. It was just like at some point I was just like, I want to cut my legs off because that's how bad the cramps were when I got home. And so the job itself, it wasn't even a matter of it's bad things going on. It was just a matter of it was real draining and real tiring. Like the bad things that would follow up after would be towards like the end of it. So, again, I was getting through the job. I was getting used to it. Mentally, I didn't want to get used to it because, again, it's not a position that I never thought I'd be in, like warehouse work. It's not a knock to it, but it was just like, again, not a place that I thought I'd see myself in. I think it was around the third month is when things just started slowly ticking for me to like really get out of there. And it started off with a small like meeting. So this was just like a 90-day meeting with all the guys that were new. So the one thing that they had, all of us new guys that were like hired in that time span, were these bright green shirts. And obviously they just kind of let everybody know around the facility, like, all right, that's a guy that's fairly new. Try to help him out if you can. If he seems lost or anything like that, help him out. So one of the, I guess, two supervisors that I had to deal with, this was during this whole 90-day thing. He pretty much like called pretty much everybody in there and to this one room that they had in the back. And this is like, I want to say there had to be, well, not including the supervisor and the guy who trained us, and I think there was maybe like two more like high up guys in there, but everybody else was just green shirts, and they were, I want to say like 30 of us. And so this speech that he was trying to get off, it was kind of just like, okay, I'm not gonna be here too long. So pretty much what he was saying is just like, what the supervisor was saying was just like, you know, hey, we've been looking at the progress of the majority of the guys, and we're doing this based off like the percentage of the majority of them. You know, like, even though we put the incentives of higher pay off the jump and things like that, it just doesn't seem like it's really working because some of y'all are just not hitting those standards that we thought somebody that were making as much as we were would supposed to hit. And so I'm listening like, all right, I mean, he's doing it as a majority census, so can't really say anything. So like, all right, whatever. And then it's like he tried to go into kind of a knockdown / inspirational, but it was more of a, yeah, this is not the right thing to say, at least to me. Pretty much he was just like, after he was going over numbers and stuff, he was just like, for some of y'all, I gotta understand, like, this is maybe the best job that some of y'all ever had. And I was just like, not really. Like, and then it's just like, he kept going. He was like, I know for the majority of the guys in here, some of y'all never finished high school. I was like, no. And then after that one, the guy who originally trained me, when it came to like how to use machines, he's looking at me because I think he kind of sees my face, and he's just going and going, and he's kind of like trying to talk down to the guys, and it's like I'm listening to him, I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling anything he's saying right now. And it's just like he was going on about like, you know, hey, I've been in this job for 10 plus years. I was able to help my family get through things and put my son through all the way to college and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, but how is that, like, any of that supposed to be inspirational and all that, especially when majority of it is you're kind of talking down to these guys. So after hearing that, I was just like, yeah, we're hearing a guy who, and again, not trying to knock him, if I remember his name, it maybe sound a little bit more vicious, but it's like, he literally admitted to us, like, you know, never stepped foot into a college like this. He's literally worked jobs like this, and he had to work his way up just to get the position he is right now. And it's like, I respect that, but it was just like, you gotta think about the fact that not everybody's here for the same situations. same route to end up here. And so after hearing that, it kind of just like, all right, kind of see where he stands at. But I think this is going to be another temporary situation. So pretty much a couple weeks pass, and I'm thinking, all right, do I need to stay? Do I want to stay? That's kind of like the thing is going. But the main reason why I was kind of hesitant to leave was due to the fact that I'm making a decent amount of money that's at least matching with what I was doing with the assistant teaching position. It still gave me time to at least go coach on the side like I was doing, but it was, definitely a drain and definitely physically just like doing damage to me. And it just with that, I was just like, I don't know if this is actually worth the time, especially where, again, I know where their stance is when it comes to the newer guys they hire. After that, it was just like, I started to at least look at other positions. That's the best way I can put it. And I think like the final push was just 2 incidents. I think they were finally explaining like some of us are gonna have to work more overtime or work overtime in general just because some of the people that were already in there were gonna be off for vacation, and they don't do like most jobs where it's like, yeah, it's Christmas, but that doesn't matter to you. Yeah, it's Thanksgiving, but it shouldn't matter to you because you should be, or you're most likely going to be working. And that was kind of like another situation where I was like, okay, we really don't get a break unless there was just nothing for us to work on. Because there would be certain days where they would just have us stay in the warehouse and clean up for like X amount of hours because we had no orders to ship out or actually any product to ship out. Like it would just be like quiet, like can't hear anything. We're just walking around sweeping for X amount of hours, and I mean X amount of hours, I'm talking about 7-8 hours doing nothing because we literally couldn't do anything. And that got annoying to some point because it's like, if we literally can't do anything, why are we here? Like, we're killing time just to say that we're here. And so I think also around that time, my grandma got into a car accident, and I was trying to go up to see her, but they were telling me like, with their process, you at least, just because of the timing of it, of where, like I think we're in like the top of December, they were saying like, yeah, you would have to like ask like a month or 3 weeks in advance because of it being December. And I was like, all right, that's that's like the breaking point. So once I heard that, I was just like, yeah, nah, I'm not gonna be here. So pretty much turned in my letter of resignation. They sent like 2 people to try to talk to me and just like, hey, we'll just give you the time to, go see your grandma and come back. And I'm like, no, like I'm good. Like, kind of see where y'all stand at when it comes to workers, so I'm not coming back. So I think, again, I worked at a job for like 4 or 3.5 months, and I was out of there after that. So again, I had to find another job because at this point I'm just like I want to say like this is like 2017 to 2019. Like this part of my resume is the part where when everybody looks at it, it's kind of like, what was going on here? It's not even due to like the fact it was 3 jobs. It was just more of the type of jobs. So pretty much, again, I had to find something quick. I ended up working for another company, but this one was, I want to say, it was a month. I want to say 2 months to be nice, but I think it was like a month to 2 months and a half. So when I left Cheney Brothers, I went and found this small, it was kind of like work at your own pace job or on-call job called 2020 Companies. So with 2020 Companies, it was just a matter of we were kind of like the tech people that work on displays. So if you think about places like Best Buy and Sam's Club and things like that, where they have those displays of like TVs and monitors and things like that, with that company, what we did was we'd go around to those stores, check to see if the monitors were working, see if there's any issues, see if anything needs to be replaced, switch out some of the flyers that were on it or the display cards that were on, check to see if the TV was running the proper demo and things like that. So yeah, nothing crazy, but it was just a matter of, one, the confusion of how to get paid off using your own vehicle, because I had to do that. And at one point, it's like the supervisor that I originally had, like, he messed up with me, because it was like, you know, during the first week, I was having no issues, did the training, met some people that were from, like, I want to say Central Florida, like Orlando and areas over there, that came up to where I'm at in Marion County to train me. And, you know, they were like, all right, you know, kind of got it, really no issues, and if there's ever anything, just call them. And randomly get called Friday supervisor. And again, with this job, I don't really know who I'm working for. That's the best way I can say. I don't know who I'm working for and don't see a face. It's like either email or a phone call, and I just kind of just go wherever I get, you know, listed to go. Like with this job, I was listed to go to some places here in Marion County and also Alachua. It was mostly Gainesville, Ocala, Lady Lake, and they tried to get me to go to Leesburg, and this is where I had my first issue with the first supervisor I'd get. But usually it would just be Lady Lake, Ocala, and Gainesville. Like those were the three places they had me listed. But the one time they tried to get me to go out of one of those places, my tire ended up exploding. And then this is where I was like, hey, you know, because they were trying to rush me to get there, and I was just like, hey, my tire exploded. I won't be able to go. Is there like service where we get help or anything like that? And they're like, no. And we'll just call somebody else to go to the place in Leesburg. And I was like, huh. So, like, yeah, like, and like, I think I don't know if I still have a picture of that tire that exploded, but yeah, it was like, okay, it's kind of on you to get to those places. And then, you know, it wasn't a crazy job. It was just more of certain tasks that were annoying when it came to it. Like with me, it's kind of like, hey, if I'm done with the job, I should just be able to leave and just go on to the next place, or just wait until another job has asked me to be handled. And it was like, with one job, I was told to check out a display in Best Buy, and at this point, this is like, I want to say this is going into like the second month, and the first supervisor I had, I guess he got either switched to another area or possibly cut, don't know. And it was just like, I was in the Best Buy and I had to check like the TVs had no issues. I was like, all right, cool, I'm leaving. And I clocked it, and they say, no, I'm getting called, like, saying like, hey, showed that you were only in the store for like 20 minutes. I was like, yeah, like, it only took me that long to get everything handled, and I don't want to look weird because I don't work for Best Buy, and I'm not just gonna stand there for however long you would think somebody needs to stay to be there, because I was already done. They're like, yeah, but we at least need you to be there at least for like 45 to an hour. I'm like, okay. That's a waste of time. And so it's like, I just sat in my car. Sat in my car for an extra couple minutes, and then as soon as it hit like the 50 minute mark, I was gone. Like, And it just got to a point where it was just like those little things that were just like not it. And at some point, like it was getting an issue with my pay. Like it was like, hey, I went to this amount of stores. I went 5 days out of the week. Why am I short X amount of dollars? And obviously, once we started talking about that, I couldn't get a phone call. Couldn't hear back from anybody or anything. So I was like, okay, cool. And so again, I was doing that, and then I decided, you know what, let me look for something else. But the thing is, though, I couldn't find anything else that, again, paid as much as what I was doing right there at that moment working for 2020. Didn't pay as much as Cheney Brothers, and didn't pay as much as the assistant PE teacher. So it's like I'm going down every time with each job pay-wise, and it's really hitting me. And so while I was looking, I was just like, dude, I just gotta find something. Like, I had to find something because I don't want to run my car into the ground. Don't want to lose it when it comes to just talking to these supervisors that I physically can never see. Like, I can't even get them on a video call. So it's like, yeah, I had to find something that's local and something that shouldn't be crazy, and I should at least be able to do until the next school year comes around, and I'll be able to see if I can hop back into a school job. So at this point, it is 2018. This is like, I'm like still looking, but I think I ended up like just randomly just quitting. Like I don't even think I like properly quit, didn't send a letter of resignation or anything. I think after a while it was just kind of like, hey, he's just not going anywhere. Okay, we assume he quit, which I kind of did. I just stopped going. That's the best way to put it when it came to 2020 in my run. 2020 companies in my run. So it was just like, yeah, I just stopped going to places. Yeah, that was it. So yeah, with the next job, which I ended up working for a year, and I literally found this job on Facebook Jobs, which I guess you can't even use anymore. It is Country Meats. So with Country Meats, it was, again, shot in the dark. I just needed a job that was local and wouldn't have me go crazy, and still give me time to at least coach, and just something to hold me off until I could find another teaching position or assistant teaching position. So with Country Meats, again, it was the interview from the jump. It was just like, all right, I think it was kind of established, like, you know, that they know that I was just there to get a job at least. Like, they didn't care about what the situation was. It was just like they needed somebody because it's a high turnover job again. But it was just like, at least they were like, we were both honest with each other. It was like, hey, I'm here to work to at least get into a position where I feel as though I could have a stable income, which I wasn't. I just had to say the right things, and they wanted somebody with a background that was kind of like diverse, and at least somewhat somebody who's willing to work. And so with this Country Meat situation, it was a company owned by a family, and it was kind of like pretty much a family-owned business, but it was a really active company. The supervisors, well, not even supervisors, but the bosses were literally a dad who wasn't in there, and it was two brothers. Again, it was a decent company. It's like, I'll never talk bad on them. I only had a few situations that kind of annoyed me, but none of the situations that I had to deal with there would ever be the reason why I ended up leaving. I'll say that. Like, this job was kind of just like, all right, I have to, for me to actually move on and get better to the positions that I actually want to be in, and everything else, I got to be able to have a job that makes sense. It's the best way to put it. And Country Meats just wanted to make sense for the long run for me. But pretty much how it went was like this. So I started off when it came to that job, I started off as a processor, or as they call it, a hanger. So, a hanger, and then I'd be a processor later. So with the hangers, pretty much, what Country Meats is they are it's a meat stick company. That's the best way to put it. It's not beef jerky, it's meats, but it's just like they make their own sticks, kind of like Slim Jims and things like that, in-house, and then send it out, and they usually sell it to people that are trying to do like fundraisers and things like that. So with the hangers, the best way to put it is, this is like the third part of the facility when it comes to the process of making sticks. So pretty much what the facility is kind of like this. All the way in the back, you have the freezer and the cooler area. That's where they have the defrosted meat. A lot of blood, a lot of ice. It's cool. Just a cold area where they keep all the meat at. The next step in the process is the actual processing room, where they have these two huge machines that just break down the meat and grind it down, and then the seasoning is added to it based on whatever flavor is being made. And then the third room is the hanger room, where that grounded meat, it's put on a cart, it's placed into the cart, placed into like a shuttle or lift to be thrown into the machine, and the machine is kind of like a cone, and on it there's this kind of like the actual skin that when you think about like sausage and things like that, and somebody is in control of the machine of actually processing out the meat into the actual casing. And with the hangers, we get those actual like fresh off the machine casings, we cut it, we hang it on these actual bars and things like that, and we fill those up, and then we throw them into the oven. And that's the actual third part of it. The fourth part is the actual room, where after it comes straight out of the oven, they take whatever's cut off and they throw it into the wrappers. And then the last part is the actual wrapped sticks into the boxes, and they're getting shipped out to whoever and whatever company. Started in the third step of the process, the hangers, and pretty much all I did was cut the actual sticks, throw it onto a hanger, filled up those bars, and then throw it into the oven. That's the best way to put it. Once I got the hang of it, which again, it didn't take me too long, then obviously they started training me into doing other parts. Mostly that first, I say month, 2 months, it was just getting used to the hanging, getting used to the speed and the process of the job, getting used to actually cleaning the facility, or at least that part of the facility, because with a job like that, just because of their standards on being able to work and go at the process of working pretty much every day except the weekend, they also had to be under like the supervision of, I think it's the FDA. So pretty much we'd have like a FDA guy come in pretty much every day and look over everything in the facility, make sure everything's clean, up to standard. And if we're good, if he says, hey, you're good, we can just cook as much as we need to without any issue. Like, they really made it so like, hey, it's showing like this is the actual standard, where why they're, quality and not just making a mess and not following standards, so that they can avoid any type of contaminations and all that other stuff. So it's kind of like, it's legitimately FDA approved food. That's the best way to put it. The first 2 months, it was just a matter of getting used to the speed and just the different parts of the third process of the actual job. So once I got used to hanging, they had me try to learn how to actually use the machine to fill up the casings. Got used to that. Once we got to that part, it was a matter of learning about the actual oven and all the other things. So yeah, like the first 3 months, it was like, I caught on quick, and they kind of caught on to that also. So it was just a matter of, all right, let's see how much he can actually do more if he's willing to do more. Because again, this is a job with a high turnover rate. But I'll say this, the first 5 months I was with the same group, everybody was actually cool. Like there was really no animosity, no social angst, no nothing. It was just like, we came from different parts, but we all kind of, we clicked well, worked well, and they were all cool people. I'll say that. They were like, again, that's why I can't really talk bad about them at all or that job. Once I got the hang of everything, it was just kind of like clockwork, and it kind of just showed with how quick as a group we were working also, because again, when you have a solid group, the production kind of changed everything. And it was just like, at first when I was there, the first 2 months, it was kind of just like, it would take us, like we'd start at, I want to say 7 o'clock in the morning, and we'd be done with, at least when it came to the actual hanging and getting the food with the sticks in, it would take us until like 1 o'clock to be done. Well, not even that. It would take us until like 2 o'clock to be done, and we were supposed to be out of there by like, I think it was 3:30 or 3:30. Possibly even 4. Yeah, no, it was 4. And it just felt slow, but like I was like this, as soon as we were getting better, mostly just me, everything was going by quicker. Like, and it kind of forced everybody in the front part of us to kind of keep up to the point where I think the first time where we had any type of issues, or I had issues, was when the guys in the second part of it, the processors, they literally came in like and tried to talk to us. They told us to slow down because we were getting to the point where we were being done before our lunch break, and our lunch break was at 12, and we were literally getting the majority of the stuff they gave us done by like 11:30. Like we were just going that quick because everything was so much easier. Because again, everybody was just catching on, and we were just moving quicker and just like on a rhythm that was just crazy. So, then mostly again, it was due to the fact of experience, and for me, it was just a matter of the job was just easy. It got to that point. And once I got to like month 6, that's when they wanted me to at least start trying like to do other things within the actual facility, but in stage 2 and stage 1. So it threw me at stage 1 before 2, just because it's a little bit more easier to work in the cooler than it is the actual processing room, just because it's a little bit more delicate, and that's the part that where if anything gets messed up in stage 2, then it kind of just ruins everything for the entire day, and possibly just for like weeks at that, just because it's the most delicate part, and any mess up there kind of just throws everything out of whack. So I worked in the cooler, and with that, it was just more of one, getting used to the cold, and mostly got to get over being around blood. Like, that was definitely a hard part, getting used to that much blood, but also just being cold. Like, but it wasn't crazy. It's just a matter of knowing the process of it, and it's mostly just either laying the stuff out and getting everything into the cart so it can be sent to the processing, and just finding your rhythm and things like that. And so with that, it was just mostly just the cold that I had to deal with, and then cleaning up after. Cleaning up in there was, again, a lot of blood, and just making sure you got the right, making sure you don't hurt yourself and slip up. Even with non-slip shoes or boots, you can still slip. So that was the main thing when it came to working in stage 1, the cooler / freezer. And then when they finally put me in the actual processing room, the stage 2 section of it, this was when they decided to like talk to me about, how much do I want to do, what's the long-term goals and all that. And it's kind of just like, whatever would end up getting me paid more or whatever makes me comfortable. I'm kind of used to whatever they kind of throw at me. So they gave me a raise. It wasn't amazing at all. I'll say that. It wasn't amazing at all, but it was just like, it's something. Like, it's like, at least they're serious about paying me, and, you know, kind of acknowledge that I'm actually keeping up and doing way more than expected. But the timing of it was just like, all right, it's good, but it's still not close to what I'm making to the last 3 jobs. But it was just like, all right, I'm comfortable working with everybody, but it's just a matter of the pay. Like, I'm working amazing, going above and beyond, but it's like that pay was killing me. Like, this is when, like, when I say like that 2017 post, well, the 2018 to the 2017, 2018 to 2019, that was just like, man, I'm dying somewhat financially. Like, this is like when I first got into like having to get, like, when I worked at Country Meats, this is like the first time I was told like, hey, you should maybe go get a cash advance just to like survive. And I was like, yeah, I think I have to. Like, never heard of it, but then it was just like, yeah, this is what I need to actually survive. Because it's like, I'll say this, we got paid every week, but it was just like, as soon as I get that, it was gone. Like, I had to pay by half of the rent, obviously had other bills and things like that, but it was just like, man, like, I gotta survive like week to week. And so, yeah, that was just like the one major bad part of Country Meats, just because the job came too easy, but I wasn't making enough. So that was like, that's always been the cloud over it and what would be pushing me out. And so, yeah, once I got into the process room, this is where I had to like really like pay attention to everything, because again, it's like, if you mess up here, you mess up everything. So I had to learn how to use these machines. The machines kind of definitely intimidated me, because again, we're dealing with these giant machines that break down the meat. And when I mean break them down, I mean they're like these giant blades within there are chopping up the meat. And if you happen to slip up, you know, that's your hand. If you're not paying attention and for some reason you let a bag fly into the actual meat while it's grinding, now you got food that's contaminated. You put the wrong seasoning in, and then that's contamination, and you just lost like, I want to say 10, 20 pounds of meat that could have been like a couple 10 grands or more. Like, it's like, you have to really, really, really think and handle that pressure. And it's just like, all right, this is like the most pressured one, but it's kind of just like the main issue that I had with it was actually just the cleaning. Like, once I got used to like, all right, put this with this, put that with that, make sure I put it with, you know, get this amount of meat for it and all like that, it was like, it wasn't an issue. The only issue I had when it came to the processing room was the actual cleaning. Like, the cleaning was just like, it was the worst. Like, it was just like dealing with all the leftover waste and meat, and on top of that, blood. It was just like, there gotta be a better way to clean this up. And the fact that like with the processing room, like just as much as with the cooler, it's just a matter of it's either 1 or 2 people that's in control of cleaning up everything. And I was just like, that's like the one thing that I hate about working in the processing room, is just like, either I gotta, you know, clean all of this by myself, or it's gonna be me and somebody else that's gotta clean this up, and it's just the 2 of us, compared to like the hanging room where it was a group of, it either be 8 to 10 or, you know, 5 at the lowest. So And it was just like, yeah, like, there's got to be a better process on how to clean this place up, but nah. And so I made it to the actual end of the year. At this point, it was just a matter of, trying to be comfortable outside of it, which was hard because, again, the pay. And on top of that, at this point in life, I'm still like on the fence on where I should go to school or how would I be able to go to school, because it's like I think I got approved to, or was officially considered a Florida resident again, which was kind of crazy on how long it took. And it was just like, where do I go to school at? And on top of that, this is around the time that I started dating again, and yeah, that was all just crazy times when I was working there. So yeah, what I say about the one good thing about the job was they try to go out of their way to take care of us. Like when it came to, again, working in a meat steak place, we'd get like first dibs on some of the sticks, and like sometimes even like fresh out of the oven, and things like that. They had a soda machine in the break room. They were real lax when it came to like going to make sure you get lunch and things like that. So yeah, they made sure everything else kind of like tried to balance out the fact that of how much we were making. Like they tried, I'll say that. So yeah, towards like the end of the year, I want to say this is like December, they had us up into this actual high-end restaurant. Like it's a Brazilian steakhouse, and like that's kind of just like, yeah, this is like a place that I'd like to go regular, but obviously I wouldn't be able to afford to. And so this is like their end of the year / Christmas thing they did for us, and like they had us in the steakhouse. The place is literally just like this high class and nice. Like they literally were walking around with the people that were serving us. They were walking around with different qualities of meat and things like that. It was like the first time I had filet mignon, and this was like wrapped bacon. I was like, dude, this is amazing. Like this is like the type of stuff I'd like to go after with regular things like that. So yeah, the first, like I survived that first year there, and it was just like, it's kind of really, really easy. It was, well, I wouldn't say the first couple months into the year. So it was like going into 2019, it was just like, all right, at some point I gotta go beyond this, or hope that they either give me a position higher or give me like a crazy bump in pay. And so, like, the first major issue popped right into like, I want to say 2019. So they were opening, pretty much giving like a position to where this is the person that will kind of be like the talking head or face of the 1, 2, 3 stage of the actual facility. And I was like, all right, I'm not gonna, just throw my head out there to say I should be it. But again, I'm kind of got like 3 out of the 5 positions, 3 of the 5 facilities of this place kind of locked down and knocked out with no issue. So it was like, there was this one guy who made more sense just because of experience. But the thing is though, he didn't want it. He told everybody like, hey, don't look at me, don't nominate me, I don't want to deal with that at all. And then there was this other guy who showed up a little bit after me, but he was a couple years older than me, and supposedly he went for it, and it was kind of just like a head scratcher, because it's like, again, not to throw people under the bus, but this is a guy who just didn't have the work ethic at all. This is a guy who would literally hide when it's time to clean up. This is a guy who take a lunch break that was a little bit longer than usual, and it was just like, I don't get how I ended up picking this guy. And kind of definitely was a head scratcher to me, but then it became established to me that it was the social aspect again. And I was just like, no way. Like, there's no way. Like, because again, work ethic didn't match anything else. And so they gave it to him based off prior experience and the social aspect. And so that's when pretty much I was just like, yeah, I'm not working at least in the hanger position at all. Like, unless I was requested by the supervisor, I was like, yeah, I'm not working in that part at all. Like, at all. So, mostly after that whole situation, it was just like, I was mostly working in the cooler, or majority of the time, the processing room. I'll say this, they did try to have me try out the actual wrapping room, which is the fourth section, and I think that's the only spot that I legitimately couldn't keep up at all. Like, even if you gave me a couple months, couldn't keep up with it at all. Like, that's just like a whole foreign language and different speed that even with enough time, I just maybe would never got it. So I did that for a day and did not go back. So yeah, so pretty much I was in the processing room and helping out with the cooler for pretty much the next, I want to say 2 months. And then there was an opening in the last area, which is the boxing and shipping room. And I was like, yeah, if I can get a chance to, one, get out of the cold, not have to deal with blood anymore and things like that, yeah, I'll go with it. And again, it's a matter of just finding your pacing and rhythm, and that didn't take too long because that is like one of the easiest areas to be in. Just getting boxes, and mostly just getting the stuff boxed up and getting it to the people who print out the things and just get ready to get shipped out. Like, that was the easiest room. Like, it's the easiest, the cleanest room, and it was just like, all right, I'll do that. And so I did that until I ended up leaving in December of 2019. So by December 2019, what was going on was, yeah, I was just like, I was finally getting talked into going legitimately go back to school. An actual teaching position or for an assistant teacher popped up again, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna throw my hat in to see if I can get it, and I got it. It was just like, and so it was kind of like, all right, everything's feels like it's lining up, everything's, you know, getting back good. And it was like, even though Country Meats has been great to me and all that, it was just like, all right, I'm getting back into the normal reality of what I wanted to be in, which is education and things like that. And I was like, all right, I'll, you know, go after it. Kind of just told him, like, you know, once I actually got the position offered to me, like, I was like, I told him straight away, like, hey, you know, glad for the year y'all had for me. And it definitely isn't a y'all issue. It's just a matter of the pay and going back into a career field that I was actually used to. And again, they had no issues. The owners had no issues and things like that. And so it's like, cool. I think it was like right after the whole end of the year thing that they usually did. They took us, they rented out the actual downtown theater for us to watch a couple Christmas movies. I cannot remember off the top of my head. And that was my last day with them. Once that was over, you know, like, we went to a restaurant, got our checks early, and kind of just left. Yeah, that was pretty much how it went with Country Meats. Again, great company. Definitely couldn't work for them at this point just because I definitely have some bills that would not be able to have me in that type of position again. But again, it was a great place to work at. Not too many issues with the social aspects, not too many no issues with supervisors. I'll say that. No issues with the owners. So yeah, that was a job where it's kind of just like this was like the placeholder position. Like if I would have worked at Country Meats and not had to work for, like if I would have did like work with them for like those from that 2017 to 2019, yeah, I definitely would have been better than the whole Chaney Brothers and 2020 situation. Like if they would have just been like, hey, I would have met them like right out of the school situation, even though the pay again wasn't the greatest. Like working there an extra year would have been better than having to deal with those first two jobs. So yeah, like I said, at that point, end of December, was that December 25th? At that point, it was just like, sigh of relief because I'm getting ready to go back as education. I got a position as a Title I para, and it wasn't PE, but it was like, all right, I'm back in the school system. Like this is where I can be comfortable. This is where I can get a chance to get into actually going back to school, because I had reapplied to go back to my original school where I got my AA from, and so it was just like, all right, everything's just lining up for like for me to be back where I want to be at and back where I should be at. So yeah, so that's episode 6. Definitely did a lot more talking, but no, it's again that 2017, well, that 2018, 2019 gap was kind of like the part of my resume that looks the craziest, but it kind of helped me get back on the right track. I'll say that. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you'll come back and watch another episode. And yeah.